All right, welcome to the guide. I'm Yo, that's Will. Whoa, wait a second. That's not Will.
I'm not Will. I'm Steve-O. I will be filling in for Will.
Will is actually on tour with his band, so keep him in your prayers. We're very excited for him. We miss him, but Steve-O was gracious enough to fill in. And I'd give more of an introduction, but we got a ton of stuff to cover, so we're just going to dive right on in. Now, we're going to get to E3 here in just a bit, which was epic, amazing.
One of the biggest in recent memory.
Yeah, it was huge. But first, I want to talk about Super 8, new movie from J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg. Now, you haven't had a chance to see it yet.
I have not. I was supposed to go see it with you, and
I know you were working. But I will say this: it was one of those movies. Do you remember when you went to the movies as a kid and you had that sense of awe and excitement and the thrill, and you're just like, oh, I'm going to the movies? Do you remember that feeling?
It's why I still don't watch trailers to this day.
Well, J.J. Abrams and Steven Spielberg somehow recapture that with this movie. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what the it factor is, the something that they do that's different, but they really do recapture that in this movie.
Do you think the trailer had something to do with it? Because I know before the movie released, J.J. Abrams said that's what they wanted to do. The mystique of the film, they wanted to have that recaptured, which is why in the trailer you don't really know much about what's going on in the movie, because they wanted the element of surprise and to discover it for yourself on the big screen.
I think it more has to do with the heart of the movie. I mean, this is a summer blockbuster, no doubt, but it's a summer blockbuster with a lot of heart. It's so weird. I was describing it to someone. Well, it's a very heartwarming, heartfelt, nostalgic, action-packed movie. And they're like, what? How does that work?
So it's a modern-day E.T.?
Not exactly. Actually, that's a good point. It has more of an edge than E.T. or Close to the Counters of the Third Kind. So not really super family-friendly. For older kids, they'll definitely get into it, but this isn't like for the younger kids. So just keep that in mind. And that's mostly because there's some intense scenes and there's some language from these kids. So not for the younger set, but for older kids, I think they're really going to dig it. And for the kid in all of us, I think it's something that we're really going to enjoy. There was one scene in particular that I found really touching. These characters were talking. One of them lost his mom. And he was saying that his mom had a unique way of looking at him. That she would look at him, and the way she looked at him, he knew that he existed. Which sounds weird, but I got it. It's like, you know, to have someone look at you, really look at you, to know that you're loved and cared for, you know that you matter. And I was thinking about that and how cool it is that the Bible talks about how God's eye is upon us all. Like, if you ever doubt your worth, your value, whether anything in your life matters, know that God sees you. He looks at you and he loves you. So never doubt that. And it was just such a touching moment, and I think it kind of touched me because I got chills like, God looks at me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I will go see that one for sure.
So, there are a few parts in the movie that are a little clunky, don't work as well as others. It keeps it from being great, but it's a really good movie. I would give Super 8 a 5 out of 7. So.
Wow. All right.
Now, moving on to E3, which is why we have Steve-O here.
Yes!
Let's break it down by the big three, starting off with Microsoft.
Oh, man, starting with Microsoft. Okay, well, as someone who has owned the Kinect since pretty much the beginning, I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and pretty much just working out with it, because that's all there is to do on it. And waiting for them to finally do something with the Kinect. And I was so pleasantly surprised that Mass Effect 3, Ghost Recon, Future Soldier, a list of Raving Rabbids, which I've actually never played a Raving Rabbids game before.
Raving Rabbids, they're hilarious.
That was part of Ubisoft's press conference, was this new game. And so the Kinect looks like they're finally taking advantage of the technology. Thank you, Microsoft. It is about time. I would have loved this information a year ago.
Kinect Fun Labs, which is available right now, it gives you an idea of what direction they're going in with Kinect, and I agree, Microsoft made me glad I own a Kinect. And then the Xbox Live experience changing this fall, and man, they really are making the Xbox Live a digital hub for all of the entertainment you want.
I may not have to pay for television anymore, and that excites me.
Live TV coming to it, Bing search function, UFC.
Yes.
There's a lot coming to Xbox Live this fall. So Microsoft had a solid outing with everything, and then they got cool exclusives. Gears 3.
Oh, yeah.
Halo 4 was announced. The Halo remake was announced. That wasn't a big surprise, but nice to know it's coming. So big exclusives, great use of Kinect. They had a solid outing.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. And that kicked off E3, so it was like,
that was a
where do we go
huge
from
kick.
here?
Yeah. Well,
what do we do?
Then we went to Sony's press conference, and that was kind of a different affair, but still interesting. You didn't get to see much of it.
I didn't. I checked out the Vita. That was pretty much it. But after hearing about the Vita, I had to go back and research and read more on it because that was the one thing that interested me. As someone who doesn't own a handheld right now, it's the 3DS or the PSP, and I'm like, wait, what is this? This looks very interesting. How little is it?
Yeah.
The cost is something that blew me away, considering PlayStation 3 launched $499 and $599.
Right.
Sony's known for higher price points, so the fact that this handheld console is going to launch at like what, $249?
$249 for the Wi-Fi enabled, and $300 for 3G and Wi-Fi.
Man,
one of the great highlights I thought from this year's E3 was when Sony announced who was going to be the 3G carrier.
Oh yeah.
When they announced that it was AT&T, the exclusive carrier, you heard people chuckling and booing in the audience.
Yeah.
It just cracked me up, and you could see the look on the guy's face who announced that, like, oh, that was a mistake.
Right.
But, they just moved on.
Yeah.
I thought it was good that Sony also addressed the recent PSN outage right from the start.
Which affected us all.
They just got that out of the way. They apologized for it, talked about how they're trying to improve security. So that was an effective way to do that. I think the Vita was a huge announcement, especially at the price.
Absolutely.
Not a huge fan of the name, but then there's what Nintendo's doing. We'll get to that. And then they had some cool exclusive. Drake's Fortune coming out, Drake's Fortune 3 coming out. They have a lot of interesting exclusive add-ons for stuff.
Right.
God of War collection, Ico and Shadow of Colossus collection.
That's going to be amazing. Sly
all
Cooper,
remade in HD.
All these fantastic games.
And then PlayStation Move still just seemed like Wii HD. There was nothing that set it apart. But overall, they had a good press conference.
It's not really moving forward.
No.
See what I did there?
Speaking of moving forward, let's move on to Nintendo's press conference, which you were very excited about.
I gotta tell you, my very first gaming console was the NES. Right. 7 years old. I've been a Nintendo fan ever since. However, I was kind of derailed with the Wii. I am a fan of graphics, let's put it that way. And it's hard to get into the experience for me when they look like Nintendo 64 games still. To me, and I know we differ on this. However, I wasn't expecting Nintendo to come out and just blow my mind with the new announcement of a brand new console, for one.
Right.
But even before we get to that, the Nintendo 3DS.
Wow.
Luigi's Mansion 2, that was it.
Yeah, that's when I said, oh, I need one.
Yes, absolutely. The titles Mario Kart 3DS is going to be absolutely fantastic. The new Kid Icarus, they blew my mind already. Before the announcement, I was already floored and stoked for what Nintendo was doing, and then they made their big announcement.
Yeah, the Wii U, I'm not a huge fan of the name, but the console idea itself, I think it could change gaming.
I think it's going to. It's going to change the face of gaming. If you haven't seen this thing, it is absolutely brilliant.
They want to bridge the casual and hardcore market. I think they could possibly actually pull that off. The big thing that they showed off was the controller, which looks like an iPad with a bunch of buttons around it.
That's exactly what I said.
And it has some amazing applications. Augmented reality, they have a chance to keep playing a game that you were playing on TV on the controller itself if someone else wants to watch baseball or whatever. A lot of possibilities there.
Yeah.
Big hangout point, no price point announced.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be pretty expensive. I mean, with the controller
here's what I'm thinking. What we learned with the PlayStation 3, people are not going to pay $400 to $500 for a console. Somehow they have to find a way to get to the $300 to $350 at the most range. And if they can't hit that, it's not going to work.
Mark my words, it's not going to happen. I just can't. I don't see it with something like the iPad or even the Microsoft or the Galaxy, whatever the tablet is called for them. Those are not cheap.
Right.
Those are not cheap. The cheapest of the cheap is $500 for one of those. And this, now granted, this was only a 6.2 inch screen, so it's a smallish screen. However, web browsing, a front-facing camera, just everything that is added onto this thing. The controller itself, in my opinion, is probably about $200.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do for price point, but I don't think it's going to fly if they go above $350. And we'll find out next year. It's releasing next year. I'm excited. That's not that far away. And that doesn't even touch on all the games that were there that we didn't get to touch because we weren't there.
I know, but thank you EA for making us really, really wish we were there.
Yeah.
So
well,
you guys win.
So who do you think had the best overall showing?
Well, personally, it's funny because up until Nintendo's press conference, I thought Microsoft, with what they did with the Kinect,
Right.
I just thought they floored everybody with the new stuff that they're going to be doing. Sony was kind of lackluster. Like I said, I didn't even watch the whole thing because it was like, meh, you know.
It took forever. It was so long.
And now maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I'm a jaded PSN user because
be.
they just launched the Welcome Back program and right, whatever. But I really thought Microsoft was going to be hands down the winner, and then Nintendo went and did what they did, and I mean they clearly, I'm saying this to Yo, clearly the winner.
Wow.
Clearly.
I thought Microsoft and Sony were pretty even overall. The push for 3D kind of made me not so excited for what Sony was doing. I agree, Nintendo blew everyone away.
Yeah.
But with a reserve, I gotta know how much the thing is going to cost.
$3.99.
Because if it's that, it's not going to work. So there's a fast update on everything that happened at E3. We got full articles on each of the press conferences at HollywoodJesus.com. And also got that full review of Super 8 there at HollywoodJesus.com as well. Thanks for sitting in for Will.
Well, yeah, I'm actually, wish I could say I'm sad that Will's not here. However, next week we're going to be doing some very awesome things that I get to be a part of.
Green Lantern will be coming next week. We'll also have a review of the Green Lantern video game and possibly Kung Fu Panda 2.
Sweet.
So see you next time on The Guide.